All right, it's Mike Novak from the Novak Real Estate Team, and today I am bringing you the January market report right here for Snohomish County. No national headlines, no crazy stats you're getting from CNN, but just hyper local backyard data that's going to give you insights and shine a light for you on what's happening right here in Snohomish County. This is relevant for you if you're going to buying a home in 2026, if you're going to be selling in 2026, or if you're just kind of curious what's happening in the market and you want to separate fact from fiction. So I do this every month and I share this with our clients and send this video out. So I just want to walk you through the data and I'll interpret what this means for you as you think about the market and as you think about the impacts this could have on any decisions you're going to make. So the first data point is new listings. And new listings were down a touch in December, not noticeable, but 0.6%. And that's kind of what we were expecting, not really enough to even have an impact on the market, to be honest with you. Pending sales also down just a little bit. Obviously, if there's less new listings, there's going to be less new pendings as well. So that makes total sense. Pending or closed sales were down 5%. They're like, so a bigger jump at the closed sales like that. That's a noticeable difference. That's indicative of a slower fourth quarter in real estate. Like we had definitely noticed a slowdown in buyer activity in October, November, and December. A lot of that seemed like it was fed by fears of the market, tariffs, all of this kind of economic noise and uncertainty. You know, what I know to be true after doing this for years is that people don't like to make big decisions when they feel uncertain about things. And so that includes buying a house or selling a house, you know. And I think there's a fair amount of uncertainty in the fourth quarter of last year. And it shows up in the data, you know, like the closed sales were definitely down. Days on market went up to 40 days on market. So on average, a home is going to sit on the market from when it comes on to when it goes under contract. So this doesn't include the time it's in escrow of 40 days. This is like still pretty good, historically speaking. It's not the 7 or 10 days that we've kind of become used to since the COVID market of 2020 and 2021, but it's still really good. I mean, usually homes like historically take 3, 4 months to sell, and we're way below that. Okay. But it's an increase of 21% from the same time last year. So people are feeling this. Sellers in particular are feeling this, guys. When every week you're on the market feels like a month. You know, it's inconvenient to deal with home showings, having your house continually ready for people to walk through it, keeping the countertops clear, the beds made, all this stuff while your home is listed. And so sellers are definitely feeling this. It's noticeable everywhere. And what we saw in the fourth quarter was we saw an increase in canceled listings where people just pulled the plug. They said, hey, I'm not going to sell my house right now. Timing isn't right. And they canceled it. Like I saw more canceled listings in those 3 months than I've seen in a very, very long time. And that tells you that the expectations of what sellers had was very different than what they actually experienced. Okay. And so there's a lot of things that go into that. I think a lot of homes have been priced incorrectly. You know, we've talked about this on our podcast, my wife and I, some, that a lot of agents are still pricing homes based on what closed 6 months ago. And that's just not relevant right now. What matters most when you're pricing your listing is to price it in a way that's going to position it to sell against the active competition. So you need to know what's on the market that buyers are going to also go look at when they're going to come look at your house, and then position your home to win through the presentation of it and the price of it. I always tell my clients you cannot outmarket the wrong price. The price is super, super important, and it takes a ton of skill to properly price a home in this current market. Okay. So this is all about days on market then. Like that's all relevant to that. The average sales price down 4%. So we saw this shift in November where it was down 3%, and it sped up a little bit to down 4.2% in December. Not huge. You know, we're not talking like double-digit price decreases. I definitely don't see that happening just because things are fairly stable. Like there's still homes being sold. You know, new listings are coming on. A lot of those are going under contract eventually. They just are taking longer than people would like. And so I don't see that number getting drastically worse. I could be totally wrong. Maybe it jumps to 10% next month. I don't know. But I think that we've kind of gotten past the most of the depreciation that we thought might happen with the numbers going down. Like I think that we're going to see things flatten out, and I think we're going to see a slow rise. And the reason for that slow rise is going to be because interest rates have come down. Okay, like interest rates got below 6% for conventional for the first time in 3 years. Like VA, FHA were already below 6%. Now conventional is as well. And that is kind of like the emotional trigger to buyers that now is a good time to buy. But what I know to be true and that people forget often is that when rates go down, prices go up. So it's kind of like a trade off, right? It kind of balances out, actually. It creates a more competitive buying environment. It creates a better environment for sellers, but your rate is going to be lower. So that means your payment's going to be lower, of course. But I think that the sales price is going to be pretty flat and slightly up for this year. I don't think you're going to see a lot of price decreases as we get deeper into this year. I'm shooting this video, January 20th. And in the first 20 days of this year and this month, we've already seen a big jump in traffic. Like a lot of listings sold. All of our team's listings are gone now, which is really cool. I think except for one actually, and they moved quick right after the holidays. So that's really cool. And a lot of sellers, got their homes sold that were sitting on them for a while. And I'm seeing that with like agents everywhere right now, that people that kind of like held on, a lot of the inventory cleared out in the last couple of weeks, went under contract, which is very cool. Percent of list price received, we're sitting at 99%. So that means that homes are selling on average very close to what they're listed for. But that doesn't tell you the whole story. And the whole story is that concessions happened massively in December. And when I say concessions, I mean where sellers were paying some of the buyers' closing costs to do rate buy downs. Buyers have closing costs that are really lender-based fees. It's like prepaid taxes, prepaid insurance, loan origination fees, credit reporting fees. It's usually 1.5 to 2% of a buyer's loan total. Okay. So a lot of those were covered by sellers, but you didn't see that show up in the data because it was a concession and not a price reduction, which is actually a very savvy way to buy a house. One of the ways we coach a lot of our buyers, because it reduces the amount of cash you have to put into it. And it can often also allow you to do a rate buy down. And rate buy downs were very big in October, November, December as well, to lock in a much, much lower payment. We saw a lot of our clients using the 2-1 buy down program again, where they got a rate that was like 4.5% for the first year they owned the house, 5.5% the next year, and then 6.5% for the remaining 28 years, which of course they're going to refinance, when rates drop down, the fives like they're now doing. So what this shows you though is the market's competitive. And if you price your home well, you're probably going to give up some concessions, but you're going to get close to your list price, which is great. Inventory, keep an eye on this number, okay? Because inventory is kind of the crystal ball on pricing, and inventory is up 30%, but it's still not that much because we got to consider the seasonality of December. Inventory is always low in December just because a lot of people don't want to list their home over the holidays. They wait until the new year. And so this really isn't that many homes that could be absorbed very, very quickly, especially with what I've been seeing in the last 3 weeks as buyers have come right back in the market. Like the holidays are over. Buyers are not distracted anymore with that noise. And they've also seen the lower rates. And now you're seeing buyer activity swing up, which is awesome. That's great for the market. Months of inventory supply, we're at 1.4 months. So that just means if no other homes came on the market after today, it'd take 1.4 months to sell every home that's listed right now. That's historically speaking a very low number. During the COVID market, we saw that as low as half of a month. But keep that in mind as you're thinking about competition and things like that. And again, the months of inventory supply is your crystal ball to where pricing is likely going to go. So just keep that in mind. That's kind of going to be indicative of where pricing could be. And with inventory being below 2 months, you can pretty much guarantee pricing is going to be stable or shoot up. Okay. So again, the really big news, the biggest news is that rates are below 6% for the first time in 3 years. That's gotten a lot of attention. If you're buying, this is really big for you. Of course, it's going to guarantee a lower payment, but you can expect to have some more competition because every buyer now is going to go re-enter the market. You've seen a pause of buyer activity for like 3 years, and a lot of those buyers you can expect are going to purchase in the next 12 to 24 months because people ultimately still want to own a home. Like it's important to people to own a house and get the stability of home ownership versus just renting nonstop. And so you're going to see a lot of people that are on the sidelines re-enter the market this year. That's going to mean competitiveness for sellers. Like sellers are going to be able to probably have good interest in their house. Their home's going to sell relatively quickly. I think the days on market's going to go down as this buyer activity picks up. So if you're thinking about buying or selling, definitely reach out to us. You can go on to meetthenovaks.com. You can schedule a free phone call with me to see if we're a good fit to help you with listing your house or potentially buying as well. I'll see you next month.